After I refused to give my mom my inheritance, she invited me to a family meeting. When I arrived, they had lawyers ready to force me to sign it over. But the moment they handed me the papers, I smiled and said, "Funny, I brought someone too."
Part 2.
Mom, I'm tired. Can we do this another time? She ignored me, pacing my small living room like a caged animal. This has gone on long enough, don't you think? It's been 3 weeks since the funeral. Time to be reasonable. Reasonable? I echoed, feeling my temper rise. Like you were reasonable during the divorce? Taking everything you could from Dad? Her face hardened. That's ancient history. This is about now, about what's fair. Fair would have been you and your perfect new family visiting Dad in the hospital when he had his first heart scare last year. Fair would have been returning his calls on his birthday. Fair would have been showing him an ounce of respect after everything he did for you. She flinched, just slightly, then recovered. Your father made his choices, and I made mine. That's water under the bridge. But this inheritance? That affects all of us. No, I said firmly. It affects me. Dad left it to me because he wanted me to have it. End of story. Her expression changed then, softened into something that might have looked like genuine concern to someone who didn't know her. Honey, I'm worried about you. All that money, all at once. It's a lot of responsibility. You're young, you could make mistakes. I almost laughed. I'm 32, Mom. Not exactly a kid. You'll always be my baby, she said, reaching out to touch my cheek. I stepped back, and something flashed in her eyes, anger, frustration, I couldn't tell. Think about what your father would want. He'd want you to share with your siblings. No, he wouldn't, I said flatly. He would want exactly what he put in his will. For me to have what he worked for. What he saved for. What he planned for. Her face went cold then, all pretense gone. You always were stubborn, just like him. Fine. Do what you want. But remember, family is forever. You're choosing money over blood right now. That's rich, coming from you, I replied, walking to the door and holding it open. Wasn't that exactly what you did when you left? She stormed out without another word, but I knew it wasn't over. My mother never gave up easily, especially when money was involved. When I stopped answering her calls, she had my half-sister leave long, dramatic voicemails about how I was tearing this family apart. Then came the threats. She claimed she would contest the will, that she would drag this through the courts for years. I held my ground. Then out of nowhere, I got an invitation to a family meeting. That should have been my first red flag. My family never met for anything unless it was to cause drama, but something about it felt different. The wording was off, too formal. I almost didn't go. But then, something in my gut told me I needed to see what they were up to. The invitation came on thick cream stationery, the kind you'd use for a wedding announcement. The Hanson family requests your presence for an important family discussion, it read, followed by a date, time, and my mother's address. At the bottom, in smaller print, regarding the estate of William Jensen. Using my father's full name like that, so impersonal, made my blood boil. To them, he wasn't a person, he was an estate, a collection of assets they felt entitled to. I called my best friend, Mike, that night. We'd been close since college, and he'd been a rock through Dad's death and everything after. They're planning something, I told him, pacing my apartment. I can feel it. So don't go, Mike said simply. You don't owe them anything. But if I don't show up, I'll never know what they're trying to pull. Mike was quiet for a moment. Then go, but be prepared. And maybe bring backup. That got me thinking. Dad had always trusted his lawyer, a straight-talking woman named Patricia Ramirez who'd helped him set up his will and handled his business affairs for years. I'd met with her after Dad died, and she'd been clear about everything. The will was solid, my mother had no claims, all the paperwork was in order. I called Patricia the next morning and explained the situation. She listened without interrupting, then said, "This sounds like an ambush. If you're going, I'm coming with you. But don't say anything about me beforehand." You think they're that serious? I asked, surprised by her immediate offer to help. Your father was very clear about his wishes, she replied. He also warned me about your mother. Said she'd try something like this if he died first. I promised him I'd make sure his will was respected. The day of the meeting, I felt sick to my stomach. Patricia and I agreed to arrive separately, me right on time, her a few minutes later, once the meeting had started. As I drove to my mother's house, memories flooded back. The few awkward holidays I'd spent there as a teenager. The way Richard would talk down to Dad when they had to interact for school events. The constant comparisons between me and my half-siblings. I parked on the street rather than in the driveway, giving myself an easy exit. Taking a deep breath, I walked up to the house I'd never felt welcome in and rang the doorbell. When I walked into my mom's house that day, I knew immediately that I had walked into an ambush. The living room had been set up like some kind of courtroom. My mom sat in the center next to her husband, smug as ever. My half-siblings were there too, looking way too pleased with themselves. And then there were the two men in suits. Lawyers. I didn't even get a hello. One of the lawyers stood up and said, "We're here to discuss the proper distribution of your father's assets." I almost left. Proper distribution? He handed me a thick stack of papers. This is a revised agreement. It outlines a fair division of the inheritance among all immediate family members. I flipped through it. They wanted me to sign over 75% of everything. The house, the savings, even my dad's car. I looked up at my mom. "You have got to be kidding me." She sighed dramatically, like I was some disobedient child. "This is the best solution for everyone. You don't need all of it. Be reasonable." Reasonable? They wanted to take everything my father worked for, everything he left for me, and they thought I would just roll over and let them. I took a deep breath and smiled. "Funny," I said, tossing the papers onto the coffee table. "I brought someone too." The door swung open, and in walked my lawyer. But not just any lawyer, my father's lawyer. The one who drafted his will. The one who knew every single legal safeguard my dad put in place to prevent exactly this from happening. My mom's face went pale. Her husband shifted uncomfortably in his seat. My lawyer didn't waste any time. She picked up their so-called agreement and flipped through it. Then without looking up, she said, "This is cute. Illegal, but cute." One of the other lawyers cleared his throat. "We believe that given the circumstances, a redistribution." My lawyer cut him off. "Let me stop you right there. The will is ironclad. Any attempt to contest it will be laughed out of court. And if you so much as try to coerce my client into signing away his inheritance, we will press charges for fraud and attempted extortion." Dead silence. Then, my mom's voice, sharp and desperate, "You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't take your own mother to court." I looked her dead in the eye. "Try me." The room was silent. No one dared to move. My mom, who always had something to say, just stared at me like she didn't recognize the person in front of her. My half-sister, usually full of fake sympathy, suddenly looked like she wanted to sink into the couch. My stepdad? He was gripping the armrest so hard his knuckles had gone white. Then, the lawyer sitting next to my mom cleared his throat. "There's no need for hostility. We're just trying to come to a mutual agreement." Mutual agreement, my ass. I folded my arms and leaned back in my chair. A mutual agreement would have been talking to me